Chairman. Good afternoon. I ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record the House Committee on Small Business statement for the record. House Committee on Small Business' Subcommittee on Oversight has been investigating the federal government's censorship of American small business by proxy since the beginning of this Congress. Our concerns began with the release of the Twitter files, when investigative journalists unearthed collusion between the federal government, social media companies, exorbitantly wealthy foundations, so-called nonpartisan fact-checking companies, to censor Americans online. When it was revealed that the State Department, through its Global Engagement Center, I'm glad we're talking about that today, funded the Global Disinformation Index, a company that creates blacklists of American media organizations and ranks them by GDI's perceived trustworthiness and risk, the committee took action. The GDI downranked conservative-leaning companies and bolstered left-leaning organizations, ironically including those who are repeatedly guilty of spreading false narratives. By labeling certain companies as risky and untrustworthy based on their political views, the GDI's ranking system interferes with the ability of conservative-leaning small businesses to earn revenue through viewership and advertising. This is reflected in the GDI's mission statement, which is to remove the financial incentive to create disinformation by issuance of its dynamic exclusion list, which is basically a blacklist disguised by an eloquent name. Advertising platforms are pressured into ending relationship with companies GDI labels as unreliable, thereby demonetizing the disfavored companies and redirecting money and audiences to the media companies that GDI deems worthy. GDI's CEO herself said the dynamic exclusion list had, quote, significant impact on the advertising revenue that has gone to those sites. Two of the conservative-leaning down-ranked businesses, the Federalist and the Daily Wire, which, by the way, are American companies, have joined the state of Texas in a lawsuit against state and GEC to stop the government from actively interfering in the news media market and attempting to render conservative press outlets unprofitable. The complaint alleges that by funding the infrastructure, the development, marketing, and promotion of censorship technology, the government is covertly suppressing the speech of a segment of the American press with whose narrative they disagree. So you're not doing it. You're just paying somebody else to do it. Other organizations funded by the GEC have been caught sending lists of accounts to social media companies that they label as purveyors of disinformation in order to have them removed from online platforms. We now know that American accounts were included in these lists. It is a violation of the GEC's congressional mandate to act against Americans, which you said you're not doing, but we've got proof that you are. They could also not send taxpayer money to third parties to accomplish the censorship they're forbidden from doing themselves. By funding these companies, making it fungible, the GEC is violating the First Amendment by proxy. The federal government cannot circumvent constitutional protections by using private actors to accomplish what the state itself is prohibited from doing. The full extent of the GEC censorship scheme remains unknown, as the GEC has been uncooperative with investigations into where they're sending taxpayer money. Our first letter to state, which asked for information on grants from fiscal year 2019 to present, was not answered for nearly 6 months. Even communications with state legislative affairs team on production schedules have been limited. Responses continue to be incomplete and delayed to this day. The single document that was finally provided in December was a sliver of what was requested, featuring only cooperative agreements instead of all of the grants as asked. And it appears from the numerical system that was used for each award that over 100 cooperative agreements were completely omitted from states' production. And some of the omitted grants are publicly available online, so it's unclear why state did not comply with our request. Further information that was available on usaspending.gov was redacted in states' limited production. These omissions caused the committee to request more information, including the identity of subawardees, to see where states' grant recipients were funneling taxpayer money. When that response also went unanswered, the committee asked for a briefing from a state grant officer to better understand the GEC's grant issuance and oversight process. This is also pertinent to the committee's investigation, given that State Inspector General found that the GEC lacked proper internal controls to ensure contractors did not perform inherently governmental functions. However, that request also went unanswered. So when a memo was sent to members of the committee to update this on their investigation with additional redactions so as to be sensitive to the nature of the information, we finally received a response from State, though it was not the one that we had hoped. When copies of the redacted information appeared in a news article, State wrote the committee a letter authored by you, Ms. Dokrakolo, close enough, a letter threatening to only share information in camera moving forward. This is completely unacceptable and interferes with congressional oversight. Not only are members of the committee entitled to this information, but none of it was classified. So we'll not be deterred by states hedging threats or obstruction, and we look forward to states' full and faithful cooperation moving forward. But in the meantime, we're demanding accountability for states' noncompliance. Can I ask, why did state only provide the committee with cooperative agreements when we asked for a redacted list of all GEC grants? Project grants should have been included, and over 20 GEC project grants are publicly available, and you omitted them anyway. Why?
So, Congresswoman, I can take this one. And first off, thank you. My husband's a Small Business Administration employee, so thank you for your work. The work that you referenced by the Global Disinformation Index, if I could just for 1 second.
So the question that I'm asking is, why did you omit records that were publicly made available?
So from our perspective, we did not omit records. We actually did provide a number.
We've got copies. You admitted records that were readily available online. They were not classified.
And I do have good news for you. We actually are ready to make a production to you all next week.
It took you 6 months to get this far, and you're finally able to get us more than one document.
I will say the Global Engagement Center is under investigation by 5 separate committees right now.
I yield back. Thank you very much.
But if I can respond, the Global Disinformation Index that we're talking